لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى صحابته ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين والعاقبة للمتقين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين بك يا فتاح يا عليم. وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. We are gathered on this very special occasion preparing the Hujjaj for this momentous trip to Mecca and to Medina to visit the Prophet ﷺ. And so this is the first of a series of webinars that Ihya Tours is conducting for all of those who are registered to go on Hajj this year. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your pilgrimage and that He return you to us all safely, inshallah. So I wanted to talk about the talbiyah today, Labbayk, right? This is something that the pilgrims, when they enter into ihram or into the clothing of sanctity, they begin with the talbiyah, right? And there are a lot of rulings that are affected here, and we'll go through those, inshallah. Perhaps in another webinar there will be a webinar just about the rulings of fiqh with respect to the talbiyah according to the different madhabs. But basically the ihram begins, and I'll just say this about fiqh, the ihram begins not when you wear the clothing of ihram, right? The ihram begins when you articulate the intention behind your entering into ihram by saying Labbayk Allahumma bihajj, right? Labbayk Allahumma bihajj. And so this is the beginning of the talbiyah, and then after that the talbiyah continues in a fashion that you have probably heard before. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk la sharika laka labbayk, innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. So I wanted to talk about the spirit of the talbiyah, right? And begin a little bit with the history of the talbiyah before we get into the meaning of it. The talbiyah begins, you would expect, with the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but it really predates him, right? It predates him. The Prophet ﷺ was born in Mecca into a community that had already been preserving the tradition of Hajj long before the Prophet ﷺ was born. And so it begins with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the story goes that according to our Prophet ﷺ, that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, along with his son Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, that they raised the foundations of the house. And upon completing it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam to call people to this house, right? To call people to this house. And ever since he called people to the house, and there was no one in sight, right? There was no one in sight that would be within earshot of Sayyidina Ibrahim's call, right? And so Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, how he should make the call, or to whom he should address the call. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, you are required to call, and upon me is the tabligh, right? That you just make the call, but I will make sure that I will decree that your call is actually conveyed. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam makes the call, and according to the hadith, every child that was in the loins of a man or in the womb of a woman heard the call and responded, Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk la sharika laka labbayk, innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. So that's where the call actually begins, with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. But I want to trace a little bit of this in the scriptures that actually predate the Qur'an, right? To see the remnants of the Hajj as it is recorded in history. And I turn your attention to a couple of passages out of the Old Testament to do this. First, I want to quote in Genesis 12, 1 through 3, we have an incredible verse that mentions Ibrahim alayhi salam with respect to his name being blessed, right? His name being blessed. Now the Lord said to Abram, get you out of your country, like leave this country, right? Leave this country, and from your kindred, and from your father's house, abandon all of them, unto a land that I will show you. Unto a land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation. Now this is before he has any children. Before Ismail is born, before Ishaq is born, Ibrahim alayhi salam is promised that he will be made into a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great. And I will bless you and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. Right? So the word blessing here is mentioned 5 times. 5 times. And in each one of our 5 prayers, we conclude those prayers by invoking blessings on the name of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, something that no other religious community does. And if they do so, not at all to the extent that the followers of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam invoke these blessings on Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so this is a really beautiful place, I think, to start, because Hajj connects us to the family of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. In fact, none of the rites of Hajj, right? None of the rites of Hajj. If you look at the major rites of Hajj, right? The tawaf, right? The sa'i, right? Circuiting the Kaaba, running between Safa and Marwa, casting the stones at Jamarat. All of these come back to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family, right? Hijr Ismail is right there. It's where Sayyidina Ismail and Sayyidina Hajar are buried. They're actually buried there, right? So this is a migration then to answer the call of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, and constantly invoking the blessings upon his name. Now, with respect to the Hajj specifically, we read in Psalm 84:6, which is much later than Ibrahim alayhi salam, when Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam comes onto the scene, right? So you have from Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, from his generation, and the generation after his, and the generation after his, until this very day, you've had prophets, and you've had the people to whom they were sent, answering the call of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? Until the time of the Prophet ﷺ and to Prophet Muhammad, he is born into a practice, right, where people already know, right? They already know manasikul Hajj. They already know them, right? They already know the rites of the Hajj. Now they defiled the house, right? They defiled the house, and they performed these rites with profanity. They did, right? But those rites were not instituted by the Prophet ﷺ. He did not introduce those rites. He purified them, right? He purified them, he honored them, and he restored their dignity and their rightful place as symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in Psalm, which was written by David, right? This is the Psalms of David, right? It says Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam. We read in Psalm 84:6, verses 4 through 6. Blessed, again blessed, right? Blessed are they that dwell in thy house. Blessed are they that dwell in thy house. They will be still praising thee. Blessed is the man in whose strength is in thee, in whose heart are the ways of them, who passing through the valley of Bakka make it a well. Right? So you have this remnant, right? This remnant from the Old Testament that conveys to us a glimpse into the history preceding the Prophet ﷺ, as to how this house was venerated. It was considered blessed. The person who dwelt in that city وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, and you are an inhabitant of this city, right? The Prophet ﷺ. This shows the veneration, the respect, the regard that people had for this house, and it's mentioned as Bakka, right? Which is exactly how it's mentioned in the Quran, Bakka, right? And they've turned that desert city into an oasis, right? They make it into a well with springs, right? Now in Isaiah 42:10 through 12, and this is the last of the passages that I will be looking at from the Old Testament. And this is now Isaiah 42:10 through 12, this incredible passage, right? Where Isaiah is actually talking about one of the servants of God. He's prophesying about one of the servants of God who will come to mankind, right? And there's a lot that's so beautiful about this, and we'll get into it. Where he says, sing unto the Lord a new song, right? Sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth. Ye that go down to the sea, and all that there, and all that is therein, right? The isles and the inhabitants thereof. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar inhabits, right? The villages that who inhabits? Kedar. Now, who is Kedar? Who is Kedar? Kedar is one of the 12 sons of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. Right? He's one of the 12 sons of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. If you look in Sirat ibn Hisham at the genealogy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that goes all the way back to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, all the way back to until you get to the word Qaydar, the name Qaydar, right? Qaydar ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim, right? So this Qaydar is Kedar, right? And Kedar, the villages that he inhabits is in Arabia, right? It's in Arabia. According to, and I'm not going to go into the biblical evidence of that, right? But the villages that Kedar inhabits, he is talking about the villages of one of the 12 children of Sayyidina Ismail, okay? The villages of one of the 12 children of Sayyidina Ismail. And he's saying, sing unto the Lord a new song, a brand new song, that is related to the villages and the cities that Kedar inhabits. Okay, a new song, right? Which is revelation. It's the Quran, right? It's the Quran. There's no song that came out of the villages of Kedar except for the Quran. That's the only song. And then look at what he says. The order in which he says it. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice. The villages that Kedar inhabits, let the inhabitants of the rock sing. The inhabitants of what? The rock. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Okay? The inhabitants of the rock, let them shout from the top of the mountains. And he's talking about the villages of Kedar, one of the 12 sons of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. Let them give glory unto the Lord and declare his praise in the islands. So here we're given another glimpse, right, through this prophecy that comes to us from Isaiah, in which he is foretelling the coming of a servant who will bring to Arabia a new song, who will bring to the villages of Kedar a new ritual, right, that engages them in such a way, or that invokes in them praises for God and shouting from the top of the mountains, which is exactly what you do after you circuit that rock 7 times. You circuit that rock, the inhabitants of the rock. Where do you go? Oh Haji, where do you go after that? Right? Arafah, right? Arafah. The mountains. And what do you do at Arafah? You shout to the top of your lungs, right? With this praise. Well, you don't shout, right? But when you have 3 million people there, right? 3 million people there. It's not like you're going to hear a pin drop, right? 3 million people. That's shouting from the top of the lungs. Not every one of us, but all of our voices in unison, right? Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. And so we have here in in these beautiful passages, we have allusions to the Hajj, the great Hajj, right? And our religion is based on 5 pillars. The first of which is Shahada, right? Bearing witness, right? Testimony, right? Bearing witness. The last of which is Hajj, which is proof, right? It's proof. Okay, so it begins with testimony, right? But it ends with proof. Huh? Those 5 pillars. It's incredible, right? It's incredible. Hajj, hujjah means a proof, right? Hajj is pilgrimage. And so this is all in response to that call, that primordial call, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. Right? And proclaim to the peoples a pilgrimage. They will come to you on foot and on every kind of lean mount, on every kind of lean, slender animal, right? Emaciated from hunger and from the distance in the travel, right? Emaciated from fatigue, emerging from every remote crevice of the earth. Yeah? This is the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The beautiful thing about this verse is that it has there's a context before and after. And the verse could be read as a command to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? And it is understood as a command to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ. And proclaim to the peoples a pilgrimage. Proclaim to the peoples a pilgrimage. They will come to you rijalan. What does that mean? They will come to you rijalan. Huh? What does that mean? Walking, right? Okay, she didn't fall for it, right? She didn't fall for it. Well, what were you thinking? Huh? Men. They will come to you as men, right? They will come to you as men. No, rijalan comes from the word rijal, right? Rijal, which is a leg, right? The ya'tuka rijalan, right? They will come to you on foot, by foot. They will answer your call by foot. They'll walk, right? They'll walk. Like whom? Like Murabit al-Hajj, rahimahullah ta'ala, at the age of 17, when he goes to his mother and he asks for her permission to go to Hajj at the age of 17. And she grants her that permission. They had to time it right. They had to time it right. Because if you miss Arafah, and you've walked all the way from Mauritania to Hajj, and you miss Arafah, what do? You stay there, right? And there's no visa that's going to run out, right? There's no visa, but you stay there, right? So I missed it. Oh, I missed it, right? You may have been planning to miss it, right? You get a whole year, right? But you had to plan it right. You had to plan it right. So if you miss anything other than Arafah, there's a way to make up for it. You miss Arafah, you've missed Hajj, right? El-Hajj Arafah, according to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Hajj is Arafah. And so Sayyidina, they'll come to you by foot. Now, one of the beautiful things about this verse is the kaf here in this verse. Ya'tuka rijalan wa ala kulli damirin, right? That they will come to you, right? They will come to you by foot, and on every slender, lean mount. They'll come to you. To whom? To Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? He's calling them to the house of Allah. He's calling them to Hajj, right? He's calling them to, like when we go to Hajj, we're not thinking about going to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? But that's what's in the verse. That's what's in the verse, right? Ya'tuka. They will come to you. Oh Ibrahim, they'll come to you, right? So we are literally answering the call of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. We're answering his call, right? So this is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating intimate space in the heart of the pilgrim between him and Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. There's an emotional connection now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting you into fully embracing. He is inviting you to fully embrace an intimate connection with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam as a responder to his call. That this is a call that is coming straight from Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam to you individually, Hajji and Hajjiyah, right? Or Hajjah, Hajj and Hajjan, right? This is, and one of the things about this is that, you know, here in America we have a lot of ways of showing deference to people of knowledge, right? Sheikh so-and-so, Imam so-and-so, Sidi, or, which is all fine and good, right? But traditionally, right, the distinction of honor and veneration of someone, right, was Hajj, right? Hajj. When they came back from Hajj, right, they now had that title, right? Hajj, right? Hajj so-and-so, Hajj so-and-so, El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. And one of the only community now that has actually, in America, that has actually retained that is the African American community, right? That have actually retained it, right? But it's very common in my country, in my father's country in Egypt. It's very common that practice, as well as elsewhere, right? That when they come back from Hajj, they're now called Hajj so-and-so or Hajji so-and-so. And they have this status now. They have this status, right? So the call is directly from Ibrahim alayhi salam, and it's the invitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, with the way that Hajj is organized these days, you go onto the website, you click on the link, right? You click on the link, you get into the website, you fill out the registration form, you block off those dates on your calendar, you talk to your boss and say, I'm not going to be here from such and such and such and such, and then what? You make sure you get on Amazon and you get the right kind of slippers that and you're doing all this planning, right? The packing and all of this, as though you were the one who was actually setting this, planning this thing out for yourself, right? But this is not the reality. This is not the reality. The reality is that you are invited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not something that you can just say, oh, I'm gonna go in 2020. No, I'll push it off this year. I'll go in 2022. I'll go in 2022. And yeah, there is that aspect of it, that planning aspect of it, but that is not really what's going on. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could take it right away from you. And we were just mentioning before class today that we just received an email saying that and I'm planning on going to Umrah in a couple of weeks. I'm planning on going to Umrah, and I may not be able to go because of coronavirus, right? I might not be able to go. So I thought I was invited this year. I did all the planning. I actually purchased the tickets, right? I did all of that. But am I really invited or am I not this year, right? Am I really invited or am I not? So Allah is the one who invites, and we are the ones who respond to that invitation. That's talbiyah. That's Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk. Labbayk la sharika laka Labbayk. Right? You have been honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those of you who are going on Hajj this year, and those of you who have gone last year, or the years before, or those of you who shall be, this is an honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confers upon us, where He invites us for His special forgiveness. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can access Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness any time of the day or night, especially the last third of the night, of every night. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to forgive you in Mecca. Right? He wants to forgive you in Mecca. He wants you to come back sinless from Mecca. He wants to show you some of His signs. He wants to bring you into His intimate space. Right? And this is an honor, this is an invitation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what this is. It is not, religious tourism. This is not going to Konya, right? This is not going to visit the precious graves in Egypt of the Ahlul Bayt, right? This is not that. What this is an invitation from on high. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inviting you personally because He wants to forgive you personally, in His own intimate space, in front of His Prophet. He wants you to come to His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wants you to see where His Prophet was born, where His Prophet lived those first formative years of his life. He wants to bring you into that space where you can connect your hearts to every pebble of sand and every rock that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked upon. He wants you to walk on those same rocks, in order to create this intimate connection and nexus between you and His beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is an answer to the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which is the invitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah invites you through the call of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so ya'tuka, they come to you, O Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And there is another reading of this, right? There is another reading of this because the context before this verse and after this verse lends itself to this particular verse being an interjection that sort of cuts the context, right? In which the Prophet Muhammad himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being addressed. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ, and call the people to Hajj. And who is being addressed now? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا, they will come to you, O Muhammad. They will come to you, O Muhammad, by foot, till the end of the verse, right? And this is the call of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for us to come to him in Mecca. For us to come to the Prophet in Mecca sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? To come to the Prophet in Mecca sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's like a hijrah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life was hosted for most of his life. Most of his life was hosted in Mecca, right? Most of his life was hosted from his birth until the age of 53, right? From his birth until the age of 53, which is around 51 solar years. 51 solar years. So he was there for 50 years, right? 50 years, and he died at 63. So 50 years of the Prophet ﷺ's life was spent right there in that beautiful city. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and you are an inhabitant of this city, Mecca, right? Mecca. You are an inhabitant of this city. Okay? So the verse is calling us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding the Prophet ﷺ to call us to Hajj, and we will respond by coming to him in Mecca, by connecting our hearts to every one of those sites in Mecca, right? His house is right outside of Marwa. Right outside of Marwa. His house where he spent with Khadija alayhi salam. A little bit further is his blessed birthplace, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You can see the mount where he called people. He said that, what would you say if I told you that an army was coming from behind this mount? That's right there, right outside the Kaaba itself is right there. The same Kaaba that he prayed in its direction. And he said, and he was telling Aisha, he said, had I not feared what your people would do, or how your people would react. Like she's not to blame. What's Aisha's? Why does he go there with her? Right? Why does he go there with Aisha? Had I not feared what your people would have, how your people would have reacted, I would have had the original dimensions of the Kaaba restored. And he's talking about that which surrounds now the Hijr Ismail, right? Because Hijr Ismail is actually inside the Kaaba, the original Kaaba. It was actually rectangular, not cubical, right? It was rectangular, right? And so you can literally go right inside the Kaaba. And he said, and I would have a door on the opposite side so that people could actually go right through and come out, right? They can go right through the Kaaba. That's what I would have. That's what his wish was, right? He wanted a door to go right through the Kaaba and right out, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So we are being called to encounter the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through every one of those sacred places of Mecca. Dar al-Arqam, we know where Dar al-Arqam is, where the da'wah was for 3 years, right? The da'wah was underground, right? On your way to Safa and Marwa on the outside, right? Dar al-Arqam, and you're going to see these blessed places. To walk right into right in the footsteps of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so many other things. And then, right? And then well, I'll save that for our second webinar, inshallah. So let's get right into the talbiyah then. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. Labbayk la sharika laka labbayk. The talbiyah, this comes from, in the Arabic language, it comes from the triliteral labaya. Lam, ba, ya. Right? Lam, ba, ya. Labba yulabbi in form 2, right? Fa'ala labba yulabbi, which means to respond to a call, to respond. But also it comes from there's a few different connotations that come with this word. One, it means to respond. Two, it means to adhere to obedience, right? So before you're even commanded to do something or prohibited from doing something, right? And you respond by saying Labbayk, it shows isti'adad, it shows spiritual preparation, right? To actually follow through on whatever the legislator is commanding, right? And we have these beautiful words in Arabic that come now in certain cultures when a father or a mother call upon their children, for example, right? The father will call upon the child and the child will say amrak, right? Before, like here in America, what you say, Danny boy, huh? Is the response, huh? If there's any response, because he might actually be a little bit busy and not want to respond right away. Danny boy, huh? Right? Yes is a little bit higher register than huh, right? It's a little higher register, no? Okay, but there are certain cultures that have actually preserved the spirit of this talbiyah, right? Where a person will call upon another person and before you even know what they want, they will say amrak, right? Your command, right? So you say, Danny boy, your command, right? Your command, right? So basically, you command me, whatever. I'm ready to do whatever you command, right? Like I haven't even asked you to do anything. I haven't even asked you to do anything. You don't even know if I actually want you to do something or not to do something. I may just want to ask you what the weather is today, right? Should I wear a jacket or not? But the way that they respond, it shows a spiritual preparedness always to do whatever is going to please the beloved. Whatever is going to please the beloved. So talbiyah is that spirit of at your command. That spirit there is enwrapped in this word, right? Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, right? It's such a weighty word. It is a word where our hearts are committed before we're even called, right? Before we even know what we're called, just because you're calling me, Ya Allah. Just because you're calling me, Labbayk, right? Labbayk, okay? And so and it's related to lub as well. If you're just going to look at the first two letters, because a lot of times this is one of the most fascinating features of the Arabic language, is that the first two letters are actually the root and not the three letters. The first two letters of a word, or the second two letters of the word, or the first and third letter of the word, I'm not making this up, right? Are actually the roots of the word. And the alternation of the third letter, or the first letter, or the second letter, the way that letter changes is going to give you a different shade of meaning that is related to the two letters that form the root. Okay? So, labaya is the talbiyah, right? Labbayka, right? Labaya, labbayu labbi. But if you look at lababa, right, lababa, see how we change that ya into a ba, and if you change it again into something else, labisa, right, something else. So you get different shades of meaning that are related now, right? Not all across the board, not for every single word in the Arabic lexicon, but it happens enough to where there's something going on here. Right? There's something really interesting about the way these words are structured, right? So lababa means heart. Right, labba, lub is the heart, right? The lub of something is the core of it. It's the pith. It's the heart, right? It's the essence. The lub is the essence of something, right? So labbayka, right? Labbayka means it's related to the response that is not just ritualistic. I'm not just entering into this state just because this is the ritual. I'm not ritualizing a ritual here. We're not ritualizing a ritual. Right, which is a lot of times it's what we do to our rituals, right? It actually strips it. It strips the rituals of meaning, right? It strips the rituals. And what does Allah says? وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ, right? And whoever honors in such a way as to magnify, Whoever magnifies, he magnifies the symbols of Allah, that is from the taqwa in the hearts, right? Because that magnification is a deed, it's an action of the heart. It's an action of the heart. So when we say talbiya, labbayka, and it's coming from the lub, then you know that this is now, it's going to be a transformative trip. It's going to transform us spiritually, and it's going to purify our hearts, right? The talbiya is for tazkiyat al-albab, right? The talbiya, that response to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for the purification of the hearts, right? And so you have these words that are related then through their roots, right? This is before we even get into the meaning of labbayk Allahumma labbayk. We're just getting into we're just looking at it from the perspective of the language, right? The language. And so one of the meanings of labbayk is that it comes also from, it means iqtirab. It means drawing close, right? And another meaning of it is mahabbati lak, right? Is my love is for you, O Allah. My love is for you, right? That's another meaning of it, right? And that comes from the word imra'atun lubba. She's called imra'atun lubba when she is overwhelmed by her love for her child, right? Like someone who obsesses over their children is called lubba, right? Imra'atun lubba. So it's related in this sense, right? It's related in this sense. It's a loose relation, right? Because that actually comes from lababa and not from labaya. Okay, so a little bit more about the spirit of this word then, as the Prophet ﷺ would utter it, right? We hear from Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha tells us this beautiful hadith. She says that no one ever called the Prophet ﷺ from his bayt, from Ahl Baytihi, or from his Sahaba, none of his family members, none of the members of his household, none of his companions ever called him except that he would respond saying what? Labbayk. He would respond saying Labbayk. Okay? So by saying Labbayk, this is something now, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Because that's how the Prophet ﷺ responded to his family members, and it's how the Prophet ﷺ responded to his companions, it's how the Prophet ﷺ responded to his ummah. Huh? That's the Prophet's response to his ummah. And here he is now giving the call, right, where his ummah now must respond, right, in the same word. But before the Prophet ﷺ, why is Aisha saying this? Why is Aisha saying this? Well, one, she's saying the completion of the verse is what? Of the hadith, that none of his family members or his companions will call upon him except that he would respond saying Labbayk hatta anzal Allahu ta'ala wa innaka la'ala khuluqin azim, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, and indeed you transcend a supernal character. Indeed, you transcend a supernal character. You ala means that you transcend it, right? It's like the Prophet, it's like supernal character is a path, and the Prophet ﷺ hovers over the path. Ala, he hovers, he glides above it, right? He glides above it, and this is how Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu described him, saying that when the Prophet ﷺ would walk, it's as though his feet never touched the ground. He was so light in his step. He said, كَأَنَّمَا الْأَرْضُ تُطْوَى لَهُ. Right? It's as though the earth was rolling beneath his feet when he walked. So if his path, the path that he takes in life is khuluq azim, it is supernal character, and the Prophet ﷺ is on that path. That was the response of Allah to the response of Rasulullah to his ummah and to his family. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to his response. Now why is that such a big deal? Why is Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha telling us that? Because this was not the way that men responded to their families or their friends before the Prophet ﷺ responded to his family and his friends like that. That was not the way that men would respond. Who used this word labbayk in Arab society before the Prophet ﷺ used it? From whom would you hear that word left and right? Slaves. Exactly. Slaves would use that word for their so-called masters. right? That was a word that slaves would use to address their so-called masters in that city, right? In that city, in that whole culture. Okay? So what does it mean then? What does it mean when you have the master of creation quoting slaves as they address their masters? What does that even mean? And if you're a slave at that time, if you're a slave and you hear the Prophet ﷺ responding to you when you call upon him, saying Labbayk, quoting you in the way that you respond to your master, what does that do? What does that even do for you as a slave? What does that even do? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse, right? What does that even do? The Prophet ﷺ said, "An-nasu sawasiyatun ka'asnan al-misht." All people are equal like the teeth of the comb. They're all equal like the teeth of the comb. No? And so for him to quote slaves, tells those same slaves that Sayyidul Qawmi khadimuhum, right? That the master of the people is the one who serves. The master of the people is the one who serves. That he flips the whole thing upside down. The whole thing is flipped upside down. No? So the slave now begins to see himself as a master, right? And this is interesting, right? This is interesting. Because, well, it's going to take us off. Okay. For another time, inshallah. So, the phrasing then of this, or let's say before we get into the phrasing of it, let's talk about the phrasing. The phrasing of Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk, Labbayk la sharika laka Labbayk, Innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. This is one of the renditions of the talbiyah that the Prophet ﷺ gives us. Now remember, all throughout history since Ibrahim a.s., prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet came to the valley of Bakkah, drank from its well, right? And they would answer the call of Sayyidina Ibrahim a.s. saying Labbayk, right? But there were different renditions of it, right? There were different renditions of it. And we have in our tradition, we have Yunus a.s. Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ tells us what Yunus a.s. would say. He would say, Labbayka farraj al-karbi labbayk. Labbayk, right? I answer your call, farraj al-karb, right? Farraj al-karb means the one who relieves every adversity, the one who relieves every difficulty. Labbayk. That was the talbiyah of Sayyidina Yunus a.s. Sayyidina Musa a.s. Labbayka ana abduka ladayk. Right? Labbayka ana abduka ladayk. Right? I'm responding to your call. I am your slave in your presence. I am your slave before you. Right? Answering your call. That was the talbiyah of whom? Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. He would say, Labbayka ana abduka wa ibnu amatika binti abdika labbayk. Alright? So it's a little bit longer for Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. He would say, Labbayk, I am your slave, the son of your slave, right? Maryam alayhi salam, amatik, the daughter of your slave, Labbayk, right? So coming with pure riqqa, right? Pure servitude before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the other phrases that we get from the Prophet himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and whenever I lead groups on Umrah, we actually vary them, right? We vary them among these three, right? The first is the one that you're used to, right? Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk la sharika laka labbayk to the end. The other one is Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk ilaha al-haqqi labbayk, right? Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, labbayk ilaha al-haqqi labbayk. We get that from the Prophet ﷺ, that Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk, right? I answer to you, I respond, I heed your call. Oh Allah, I heed your call. I heed your call. Oh Lord of truth, I heed your call. Ilah al-Haq, right? Oh Lord of truth. So that comes to us from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's one of the talbiyah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another one is Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk. No, Labbayk Allah haqqan haqqa. Labbayk Allah ta'abbudan wa riqqa. Right? There's another beautiful, beautiful talbiyah from the Prophet ﷺ. Labbayk Allah haqqan haqqa. I respond to you, Allah, in truth, in truth. Labbayk Allah ta'abbudan wa riqqa. I respond to you, Ya Allah, ta'abbudan, right? Ta'abbudan, as in complete worship, right? Submerged in worship. Wa riqqa, and servitude, right? And servitude. So the spirit then of labbayk, why is servitude here? And riq is another word for slave, right? Why is servitude mentioned here? Why is slavery mentioned here? Why is ana abduka, ibn amatika, bint abdika, according to Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam? What is this emphasis on servitude and slavery, right? This was the word that slaves used for their so-called masters. This was the same word. So the spirit of this word is that slaves are coming back to their masters. Slaves are coming to you as a slave, whose forelock is in the hand of your master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we are His slaves. We are His servants. And in being so, in being such, we are not slaves to any other thing in creation. To anything in creation. To any man or any woman or any pursuit or ambition or any goal or hope that you have for this world. We are not enslaved to anything else by enslaving ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is that the case? Because we were created to serve. There is no human being on the face of the earth today except that he is the slave of someone or something. There is no human being who has ever lived except that he is the slave of someone or something. And the greatest delusion for those of us who might say, I don't serve anybody, I don't serve anything, or I haven't, and if the greatest delusion is that when you've taken yourself as a God, right? أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Do you not see the one who has taken his own desires as his God? So that's a great delusion right there. That's pharaonic, right? Pharaonic. That's pharaonic, right? That is the greatest delusion, right? When you've taken yourself as your God, because ultimately you will serve someone or something, even yourself, right? And the only way out of that, to where you are truly a master, even over yourself, is when you submit yourself to its creator, right? And labbayk Allah ta'abbudan wa riqqa. That is the essence of this talbiyah, right? That I respond to your call out of sheer worship, Ya Allah, out of sheer worship and slavery to you, servitude to you, Ya Allah, servitude. No? And so coming back to Allah as a slave, right? With nothing to your name, right? It doesn't matter if you're king so-and-so or prince so-and-so or sheikh so-and-so, or everyone's got to take their turbans off. Everyone's got to take their turbans off, right? For the men, right? The men, they don't. You put your turban on, and there's blood to pay for that. You put your turban on, you got blood to pay, right? So you come barefoot, naked. None of the women, the men can't even wear undergarments, right? The men can't even wear underwear. Right? You're coming to this like a baby. You're coming into this like a baby. Why? Because you're coming back like a baby. You're coming back like the day your mother gave you birth. Right? You're coming back like the day your mother gave you birth, and you shave your head. Right? Which is what your parents did on the 7th day of your existence. They shaved your head. Right? This is bringing it back. This is the pressing that reset button, right? This is pressing that reset button and going right back to basics, right back to what this thing was all about in the first place, is that you are helpless. You are helpless. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who fulfills all of your needs. وكنت لي قبل والدي غذيتني في الحشا جنينا وكنت لي قبل والدي. That you nourished me as a fetus in the womb. You nourished me, and you were mine before my parents were. You were mine before my parents were. You were all I had even before my parents, even before I was introduced to them. وَكُنْتَ لِي قَبْلَ وَالِدَيَّ. And you were mine before my parents even. Now, and so this then is the spirit. Then some of the reflections then on the meaning of this is that which is going to actually make this trip count all the more for us. About the talbiyah itself, the Prophet ﷺ has said that there, according to this is related narrated to us by Sahl ibn Sa'd, and it's related by Tirmidhi, Bayhaqi, and Al-Hakim in the Mustadrak. He said, "ما من مسلم يلبي إلا لبى من عن يمينه وشماله من حجر أو شجر أو مدر حتى تنقطع الأرض من ها هنا ومن ها هنا وها هنا." So he said, I know I chopped that up. He said, "ما من مسلم يلبي إلا لبى من عن يمينه وشماله من حجر أو شجر أو مدر حتى تنقطع الأرض من ها هنا وها هنا." That there is not a single Muslim who says Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk, who answers with the talbiyah, right, of Hajj and Umrah. There's not a single Muslim who does that, except that everything on his right joins in that talbiyah, and everything on his left joins in that talbiyah, in saying Labbayk along with him. Not everything, but he specifies every rock, every tree, and every hilltop. Every rock, every tree, and every hilltop is joining in the talbiyah. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Did we not say that? The villages that Kedar inhabits? The villages that Kedar inhabits. Huh? Let them sing unto the Lord a new song. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. The Messenger ﷺ says the same thing. When you say Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk, and you're saying that, you are shouting that. You are, and Jibreel ﷺ commanded the Prophet ﷺ with the talbiyah to raise his voice. To raise his voice with it. Right? To raise his voice with it. So it is something that we actually raise our voices when we recite. Labbayk Allahumma la, and you have the whole bus is right. It's usually in a bus when we're doing it, but that's not where it's. That's why I'm going through this, because it's not just for the bus. It's for whenever there's a transition from one place to another, or from one position to another. If you're sitting down and you stand up, Labbayk Allahumma labbayk, you renew it. If you're standing up and you sit down, you renew it. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. If you're lying down and you sit up, you renew it. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. If you're at the top of a mount, if you're traveling and you get to the top of a hilltop, and you can see everything below, Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. Once you get all the way to the bottom, Labbayk Allahumma, and you see everything that's going on, Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. It's renewed. It's renewed. And one of the companions here, this is Ayyub al-Ansari. He said that رأيت سعيد بن الجبير في المسجد يوقظ الحاج ويقول قوموا فلبوا. فإني سمعت ابن عباس يقول هي زينة الحج. So he says that he saw Sa'id ibn al-Jubayr in the masjid waking people up as they were asleep, saying, "Wake up and say Labbayk Allahumma Labbayk." Wake up and say it, right? Because I have heard Ibn Abbas say, "Hiya zinatul Hajj." It is the adornment of Hajj. It is the decoration of Hajj. Right? The talbiyah. It is the decoration of Hajj. Right? Because what does it do? It brings us right back into that spiritual space of connecting to the Prophet ﷺ and entering into this with our hearts, right? With our hearts in full servitude before our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, and he said, according to Jabir, he said, ما من محرم يضحي لله يومه يلبي تغيب الشمس إلا غابت ذنوبه فعاد كما ولدته أمه رواه أحمد وابن ماجه. So he says, Jabir said that there is not a single person who enters into ihram يجي لله يومه sorry, I said يضحي يجي لله يومه in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings his day to a close, right? Brings darkness upon his day, and the sun falls then, except that his sins fall with the falling of the sun. His sins fall with the falling of the sun, and so he returns as though his mother gave him birth. Sinless as though his mother gave him birth. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. So, I think with this then, we have, inshaAllah, a good sense of what this word actually means, right? And one point of fiqh now, it just comes across my mind, is that for the Hanafis, when you are entering into ihram, right, there's 2 rak'ahs that we pray. The first rak'ah we recite Surah Al-Kafirun, and the second rak'ah we recite Surah Al-Ikhlas, right? And in fact, whenever you're praying 2 rak'ahs in the rites of Hajj, those are the 2 surahs that we're usually reciting. Behind the Maqam Ibrahim, after the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, it's usually Kafirun, Ikhlas, Kafirun, Ikhlas. So just remember that, right? But for the Hanafis, right after you say your salam, right? You say Salamu Alaikum, right? In the salah, at that point, you're going to do the talbiyah, right? You're going to say, Labbayk Allahumma bihajj, right? Labbayk Allahumma bihajj. For the Malikis, and I can't really speak for anyone else, but for the Malikis, you're going to do that once you get back on your camels, okay? Right? Once you mount your camels, that's when you say it, right? When you mount your camels, or when you are, right? When you're on the bus, right? When you get right back on the bus, that's when you say that. Labbayk Allahumma bihajj. At that point, you have entered into ihram, even though you're wearing ihram before that. Right? You're wearing ihram before that, but at that point you have entered into ihram, right? So I think now would be a good moment to pause, inshallah. If there are any reflections, anything you would like to add, any questions, feel free to ask, before we formally conclude.
Is there anything to do when you get to the Hijr Ismail, because the Hajar is buried over there, and Ismail is not?
No.
Do we do anything in that case?
So the question is about Hijr Ismail, where Sayyidina Hajar and Sayyidina Ismail are both buried. Is there anything to do when you're there? One thing that I should say, and this is from the khasa'is of this ummah, this is from the distinctions of this ummah, right? We do not know beyond the shadow of a doubt, with 100% certainty, where any of the prophets or messengers are buried, except for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? He is the only one. Even if you're in Jerusalem, right, and you go to Khalil, right? You go to Khalil, from Jerusalem to Khalil, it's a bus ride. When you get to Khalil, right, where it's said that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam is buried, and Sayyidina Ishaq is buried, Sayyidina Rifqa, the wife of Sayyidina Ishaq, Sayyidina Sarah, the wife of Sayyidina Ibrahim, Sayyidina Yaqub, and Sayyidina Yusuf. They're all said to be buried right there in heaven, and they have maqamat there. We don't know if he's buried there. We don't know, right? That's where Bani Israel have told us that they were buried, and we've accepted it, right? That's the maqam. And a lot of people have maqams because they just went through, and they don't, like Sayyidina Bilal. He has a maqam in Jerusalem, right? Sayyidina Salman al-Farisi, he has a maqam in Jerusalem, right? But they're not. But we don't know if but they're not buried there. They're actually buried in, Sayyidina Bilal is buried in Sham. But he has a maqam there because he passed through there. Sayyidina Yunus has a maqam in Jerusalem. Sayyidina Musa has a maqam in Jerusalem, right? But we don't know where they're buried. The only one whom we know for a fact he's buried where he is Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For a fact, right? For a fact, he's buried in the house of Sayyidah Aisha, and we know where he's buried. So that should be said, right? It is said that Sayyidina Ismail and Sayyidah Hajar are buried in that place. There is nothing that has come to us, to my knowledge, from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he actually would pray for them, right? There's nothing in the narrations, to my knowledge, where he would actually pray for them. That does not preclude anyone from actually reciting Al-Fatiha for Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, for Sayyidina Hajar, and for Sayyidina Ismail. That doesn't preclude the fact. So if you're there in the Hijr, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into your heart, by all means, gift them Al-Fatiha. Gift them Al-Fatiha, and it will reach them wheresoever they are buried. Wheresoever they are buried, it will reach them. It will reach them either in that place, if they're buried there for sure, right? Or if they're buried in some other place, it will reach them. It will reach them now. If we recite now, Surat Al-Fatiha for all three of them, and for Sayyidina Ishaq as well. Don't forget Sayyidina Ishaq. Huh? It will reach them where they are. Now, and that is from the distinctions of this ummah. But if you're one thing about the tawaf, right? That don't ever make tawaf inside the Hijr Ismail, because you're actually inside the Kaaba at that point. You want to make your tawaf outside, and then try to pray inside, because if you're praying inside, you're actually inside the Kaaba praying, right? Yeah, and another thing is, make sure that if anyone has, I know T-Mobile works really well with reception over there. So when you're in the haram, make sure that you open up your adhan apps and calibrate your thing, just to make sure you know where the qibla is.
So if you're playing inside the Kaaba, so to speak, side are you facing?
You're facing one of the four walls, right? One of the four walls. There's one of the four walls, yeah. No, alhamdulillah. Yes?
Is it a bad sign if you make an intention to go for Hajj or Umrah and then you're not able to go for any reason?
Is it
Is it a bad sign?
No. It's a very good sign, because if you make the intention to go every year, and this is something that the people who the people of wara, the people of scrupulous conscientiousness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they make the intention to go to Hajj every single year, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as you believe Him to be, right? He is as merciful as you, He is as compassionate as you believe Him to be. So if you make the intention to go, and let's make the intention to go this year. Let's make the intention to go, right? And if you're precluded from going, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His bounteous compassion and His mercy, He gives you the reward for going, inshaAllah. Inshallah. أَنَا عِنْدَ حُسْنِ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I am as my servant believes me to be, in his best estimation of me. In his best estimation of me. So in your most beautiful, your best estimation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be that for you. Yeah? No. Alhamdulillah. I think with that, are there any other questions from any viewers? Do we have any questions from our viewers, or no? Okay, Bismillah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى من والاه أبد الآبدين يا أرحم الراحمين وسلم تسليما كثيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.